This is a regular city council meeting for Tuesday, February 28th. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Yes. Councilmember Harmon?
Here.
Councilmember Friedman?
Here.
Councilmember Oscar Gutierrez?
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Alejandro Gutierrez?
Present.
Councilmember Snedden?
Here.
Councilmember Jordan? And Mayor Rouse.
Here. And as you might have heard, Mr. Gutierrez is sitting in his office because of he's not feeling well. So we're going to do his voting remotely, and I need to get the approval of my council to do so. May I have a motion to allow Mr. Gutierrez to participate remotely?
I make a motion.
Moved by Gutierrez. and
Second.
Second by Friedman. Are we going to do the vote? Okay.
Yes, so this is a motion by Councilmember Alejandro Gutierrez, seconded by Councilmember Friedman to allow Councilmember Oscar Gutierrez to participate remotely. And you can go ahead and vote on your screen. One moment.
We're plowing new ground here, folks. Be patient with us.
All right. Now we can vote on that. My apologies.
Just go ahead and vote again?
Yep, go ahead
Okay.
and vote again. Same motion. My apologies.
Please vote. All right, very good. It passes unanimous for all present, and Mr. Gutierrez was not voting, obviously, so he abstained. All right, very good. Thank you. And we have a ceremonial item. Would you read that, please?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, this is item 1, Peace Corps Week, February 26th through March 4th, 2023.
And is somebody here to receive please come forward. Hi. Okay, it's Peace Corps Week, February 26th through March 4th, 2023. Whereas the Peace Corps was established by President John F. Kennedy by executive order on March 1, 1961, with a mission to promote world peace and friendship by fulfilling 3 goals. 1, to help the people of interested countries in meeting their need for trained men and women. 2, to help promote a better understanding of Americans on the part of peoples served. 3, to help promote a better understanding of other peoples on the part of Americans. And whereas the Peace Corps partners with communities abroad to develop sustainable solutions for the world's most pressing challenges, and as volunteers carry out people-to-people public service and citizen diplomacy at the grassroots level, addressing challenges in agriculture, community economic development, education, environment, health, and youth development across the globe. And whereas Peace Corps volunteers return home as global citizens with unique cross-cultural perspectives, as well as leadership, language, teaching, and community development skills that provide value in today's global economy. And whereas today, 62 years after its founding, with over 240,000 Americans having served as Peace Corps volunteers in 142 countries, the Peace Corps remains committed to its ideals, and its volunteers leave a legacy in the lives and communities of the people they reach, educate, and inspire. And whereas the University of California, Santa Barbara has a long, rich history of producing Peace Corps volunteers, and Santa Barbara County has a strong presence of returned Peace Corps volunteers with an active local Peace Corps association. And whereas Peace Corps Week is an annual event commemorating President Kennedy's establishment of the Peace Corps on March 1st, 1961, celebrating all the ways that Peace Corps makes a difference at home and abroad while renewing the agency's commitment to service. Therefore, I, Randy Rouse, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Santa Barbara, do hereby proclaim February 26th through March 4th, 2023 as Peace Corps Week, commending the Santa Barbara Peace Corps Association LA Regional Peace Corps Office, and local return Peace Corps volunteers for advancing the Peace Corps mission locally in Santa Barbara. Congratulations. Like to say a few words?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and honorable council members. I am Charles Feinstein, president of the Santa Barbara Peace Corps Association, former volunteer in Micronesia, former Peace Corps staff member in Washington, D.C. and abroad. We're particularly grateful for the recognition this year, given the recent history of Peace Corps. Due to COVID, Peace Corps was forced to withdraw all its volunteers worldwide in 2020. And with the improvement in public health conditions, this year we were enabled to reinstate volunteers overseas. Peace Corps is now back in 47 countries, and that number will continue to grow over the coming months. It's a pleasure to be here in Santa Barbara and see such an active Peace Corps community and support from the general public. Lastly, I'd like to note that your Deputy City Clerk, Naomi Kovacs, was the immediate past president of our association and a former volunteer herself in the West African nation of Cameroon. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, very good. Are there any changes to the agenda?
Yes, Mayor Rouse, we need to pull item 11 for a future meeting.
Okay, item 11.
Is my father okay in the back?
It is.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Hang on one second.
Last one.
Are we getting feedback from something else, Nico? Okay, very good. All right. Well, we will go to general public comment, and that's for time at the dais for anything that is not on today's agenda that is within the purview of this council. And I know there's quite a few folks here to speak. That's why I'm going to switch it to 2 minutes per, so that we can hear from everyone, because we have enough slips and enough online participation where we couldn't fit anybody into the half hour. I'm going to ask those of you who brought signs in, not wave them or hold them up. We're going to try to retain order in the chambers. So please just leave them down or in the back if you would, please. We'd like to keep it nice and civil, and we want to hear from everybody. We like not to hear clapping or booing or any kind of disturbance of any kind. Please be respectful for all speakers if you would. So, 2 minutes per, Mr. Clerk. And we will start out with John Hanna. And Mr. Hanna, the counter's right there in front of you, and it'll show up on the screen as well when your time is getting closer when you're up.
Thank you so much. Thank you for allowing me a few minutes to voice my safety concern. I am the HOA president for a condo community at 400 East Petagrosa. We've had an issue with our water pressure. It comes into a complex at a dangerous 250 PSI from Santa Barbara Waterworks. For everyone that doesn't know, home water pressure is normally around 75 PSI. Each of us have a pressure reducer valve to allow our houses to handle the high pressure coming into the complex. The problem is, with this high of a pressure from the water main, our pressure valves do not last very long, only about a couple of years. Then this causes dangerous water pressure inside the homes. This puts all of our plumbing and water fixtures into danger of being damaged. I've tried to address this through the Public Water Works Department, and they basically have said that it's not their problem. We've tried to handle this on our own. We got an estimate to install a water main pressure release reduction valve, but it would cost around $16,000. Most of our homeowners are seniors, with many of them in their 80s and 90s. If a pipe breaks in their home, they could be injured. Furthermore, they are on a fixed income, and trying to absorb the $16,000 to replace it ourselves would not be easy. I'm requesting that the City Council strongly encourage that the City Water Works Department to install a pressure regulator valve at our water main. I think it's the only fair and reasonable thing to do.
Thank you. And by the way, thank you very much. And by the way, at a quarter after, we're going to stop taking requests to speak both online and in person. The next speaker is, and forgive my last name here, Stanley Zankoff. Hopefully I got that close.
That was great.
Okay, very good.
I know it's me every time somebody stutters a little bit with my last name, so you got it. Hi, council, staff, and fellow community members. I'm here today as a co-founder of the Santa Barbara Tenants Union, as a longtime working class renter, somebody who just cares about our community. And I and many others here today are on behalf of the many other families who couldn't be here today midday to give public comment, or who maybe were already displaced from our city from the rent being too high. And we're here to talk about rent evictions. Rent eviction is a term that's sadly far too useful these days. It refers to a landlord evicting a tenant, claiming they'll do major renovations, requiring the tenant to be evicted and ultimately displaced. Rent evictions are the only way a middleman can flip a rental unit. And these landlords, almost always large companies and not your good local small property holder, mass evict under the guise of renovations, deregulate the rent, and resell. Without rent control, which we've talked about, or adequate housing being constructed, our neighbors, oftentimes long-term tenants, are then outfacing rents that are just untenable, oftentimes double what we're used to. Rent evictions are frighteningly common, and it's causing incredible harm to our community. It's now being talked about, and you can do something about it. First, I'd like to address a couple of misleading myths I've heard thrown around. First, on mediation. No, mediation doesn't work for the vast majority of tenants in these types of cases. And second, as the vast majority of tenants who have had to go through this painful process of a rent eviction, this absolutely isn't about habitability-related repairs. And it's totally possible to do repairs with a tenant living elsewhere, and more so the city could and should first be sure that the reasons tenants are being displaced is for habitability repairs and not just permitted, or as we also see, also unpermitted cosmetics. The real question here is not whether repairs will get done, but who bears the cost. And this, we really need to talk about this, and it's something you can do about it. Thanks.
Thank you. Rick Hansen. Following Rick Hansen will be Kenny Chisholm.
Hi. I live downtown Santa Barbara. In spring of 2021, Dario Pini bought our property. There are a large house and 6 cottages on that property. He immediately evicted half of the tenants and did not give them any money for relocation. He did not offer us a lease, even though when he bought the property, we all had a lease from the prior landlord. We asked him several times for a lease. He did not ever do that. He hasn't done it to any of his tenants unless he decides they deserve it. The first time he tried to evict us was in February of 2022. Now he's trying it again. December, he gave us another eviction notice. The first time he couldn't do it because he didn't include in the eviction notice all the proper stuff, like relocation money. By the way, he didn't offer any relocation money to anybody in the first time he evicted them in the spring of 2021. Now he's trying it again. He has yet to offer us a lease. He has yet to follow the law. There are thousands of people in this area that have been treated like this by this man. But there are others. Anybody can get away with this because the law will not back up the tenant. I've been there 25 years. My housemate has been there 40 years. We have paid for that house several times with our rent. And yet, being on Social Security, I'm supposed to now go out and find someplace else to live with my housemate. And I'm not being given enough money to be able to do that, even with the current law. Okay?
Thank you.
I'm upset about it, and I think you should be too. It's absolutely a travesty.
Thank you. Ms. Gutierrez has a question for you.
Okay, yeah.
Who's the landlord you're speaking?
Pini, Dario Pini.
Okay, thank you. All right, Kenny Chisholm to be followed by Steve St. Ong.
Hello, council members. My name is Kenny, and I am a resident of Santa Barbara in District 2. I graduated from Westmont College coming up on 6 years ago, and nearly all of my graduating class has moved away because of how impossibly high the rent is. The only way to make it work seems to be finding a bit of an older lease or to live with 4 or more other people. And this is what I hear from everyone my age. And realistically, it means that Santa Barbara is a place where you make friends and then within a year they leave. It's really, really sad when you're trying to build a community and a home and your people have to leave because there's no way to pay rent this high. I want to stay in Santa Barbara because this is where I call home. I've not lived anywhere else as an adult, and this is truly where I call home. I don't by any means hate everyone who does property management for a living. I hate that there aren't policies in place to protect vulnerable people from those property managers and property management companies that will forcibly remove someone or some family from their home under a shoddy guise of mandatory renovation and then raise the rent out of reach for that same family to return to their home. Policies like this don't have to be made by evil people or to be malintended in order to be racist. And it matters what their actual effects are on communities of color. Rent evictions are disproportionately displacing families and even communities of color at an alarming rate in Santa Barbara. And we cannot stand to oppose racism with our mouths and our online posts, but to let our own local communities of color be wiped away in the name of profit. Please, council members, I implore you to ban rent evictions by putting in place stricter policies to protect tenants. Thank you.
Thank you. Steve St. Ong, followed by Wendy Santa Maria. Nico, how do I restart this?
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak with you. I came to Santa Barbara in '65. My dad moved us out here from Jersey, and I've been here ever since. And my mother shared an office with Sheila Lodge some years ago down the hall. My mom was the assistant city administrator for Santa Barbara. My dad was the sanitation inspector for Santa Barbara. And, you know, my whole life has been centered around Santa Barbara. And I live at 1515 Laguna with Rick Hansen, and I'm one of the people that Dario has been evicting for 1.5 years. I'm disabled. I lost a leg some years ago. I'm almost 70. And it's been really hard on me. We've been fighting him for about 1 year plus now. We've been winning, but it doesn't feel like we're winning. You know, it's a real bad situation, and this rent eviction is just a farce. I mean, it's just a ridiculously easy way for these slumlords to get away with cosmetic repairs and jacking rent. And I hope and pray that, you know, enough people will speak and make a difference. I mean, something has to be done. We're losing too many of our citizens can't afford to stay in Santa Barbara anymore, especially seniors. And thank you very much.
Thank you. Wendy Santa Maria, to be followed by Patricia Guerra.
Good afternoon, Mayor, City Council members. My name is Wendy Santa Maria. All of you already know me. I'm the organizer with Cause. I've been here giving public comment more times than I can count. But I am here again just begging you at this point to do something with the power you have. I am working with families day in and day out who are, you know, they're on the brink of homelessness. And right now you have the community coming up to you, imploring you to do something to ban these rent evictions, to stop landlords, the corporate, you know, landlords that are intending to just do this for profit. We're not talking about the mom and pops, you know. There's good ones, of course, but there are more than plenty of the, you know, bad corporate landlords that are literally turning our communities into, you know, homeless folks that are gonna keep getting overlooked. You all, I don't have to tell you all, there aren't enough services for the homeless. And you have right now the community asking you to not get displaced so they don't end up that way. And as somebody else mentioned before, it's all about who's gonna pay that price, right? And, you know, corporate landlords don't wanna pay the price, they wanna get they want to earn more money. But, the ones that are going to end up paying the price are all the families that are having to move away, all the children that have to leave their schools and their friends, and people who have to leave their communities, everyone that has to sleep on the street now because they simply couldn't find another rental. I want to try to appeal to your heart. I don't know. We can talk policy all day, but I just want you to consider these are real families. These are real people going through this. And we're going to keep coming back every Tuesday. Every Tuesday there's going to be people here. And, everyone that can be here, even though people are working in the middle of the day, please listen to them, because it's not just limited to the people in this room. There are hundreds of others who couldn't be here today going through the same thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Patricia Aguirre, followed by Marcelo Ortiz.
Good afternoon, City Council. I'm Patricia Guerrera, and I'm here to talk about the evictions that's going on that really affected and impacted me and other people that lived in my building. My home was at Garden Street, and my landlord passed away, and then Ed St. George took over the property. And since then, he didn't do anything to fix the property. It wasn't safe. But recently, as of probably late September, he started evicting some of my neighbors and increased my rent and some of the other rents. But when I did speak up about fixing things, he evicted all of us. 7 people in the unit. I've lived there 14 years. Since then, I had to fight him in mediation to get proper compensation. But even then, the 3-month relocation fee is not enough. I haven't found a place to live. So it makes it really difficult to work under these circumstances. I'm really nauseous and upset of what's going on. So it's not easy. It hasn't been easy to find a place. And this shouldn't be happening. And I think we should do more to stop from this happening, because when you start looking for a place to live, everybody is hiking it up. It's totally using it as an excuse, and my place is still available. It's vacant. And I just ask if you could do something about it. We need more laws, more protection, and when you do speak up to the landlords, they evict you instead of doing something about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Marcelo Ortiz, followed by Amber Asher.
Hello, I want to thank you very much for listening to us. We all have a similar story. I'm not a resident of Santa Barbara. I live in Solvang, but I am hearing these same stories over and over again from Santa Maria, Lompoc. I'm an ear that people like to talk to. I live in an apartment in Solvang. We just got bought out by somebody local here in Montecito. And immediately they come in and they changed a home for 50 units that people, I'm a short-termer at 20 years, that now we have all these elderly people and people that have been there longer that know that within 2 years, they are not going to be able to find a place to live in Solvang. Are they going to be able to find a place in Santa Barbara? No. Are they going to be able to find a place in Lompoc? Maybe. But we're taking people that are older, that they don't have the means to move either. So, I'm just here because I want to represent all those people that can't be here today, the people in Santa Barbara. I am going to my city council meetings in Solvang, same thing, and imploring the people that have the power to make decisions. We need more help for people that are renters. We need people that are falling in those income levels between the 10,000 to the 100,000 that don't have the big amounts of money to spend on rent, that aren't able to pay $5,000 a month rent. We need affordable housing for these people. We need them not to be worried about getting evicted and where are we going to go. That's one thing I hear over and over again. And Solvang has another issue, which I'm sure Santa Barbara does. We've had so many rental units leave single people for renting and go to Airbnb properties. So it's another aspect of the unfortunate rental crisis in the whole Central Coast. Thank you.
Amber Asher, to be followed by Olivia Asher.
She's going to come up on her own. Hello, I am Amber Asher. I, as others you've heard from, am here representing the 1515 Laguna Association. I'm a 25-year resident and taxpayer in Santa Barbara and the greater area, and I've spent the last 5 years of that downtown. 2 years ago, DP Investments, owned by Dario Pini, took over our property as its owner. He inherited existing leases from the former owner, and as others have shared, he has never offered a new lease. While I believe it's important to address the legal loophole of renovations as a defense against unnecessary evictions with a full ban on renovation evictions, or renovictions as we're calling it, I believe another area to address would be a repair to the time statute clause in the very well-attentioned and very much appreciated 2019 mandatory one-year lease law. Since taking over ownership, DP Investments has made no attempt to comply with that law. Because there's a one-year time limit from failure, which is sort of vague and hard to define and hasn't been defined before a judge, there's uncertainty and vagueness in the law. And Dario Pini's lawyer and others who will follow him will be attempting to exploit that clause before a judge to get a ruling in their favor upholding that one-year lease limit or failure limit and defining it as from the date they didn't supply a new or first-time lease. This is speculation, obviously, but if precedent is set, then this would mean that after 2 years with no attempt to comply, simply waiting out the time, the eviction would be allowed without cause. So with cost of rents now, we're going to be facing increased homelessness and increased impact to reduced housing available. So I beg you, as a well-meaning and earnest elected city servant, to consider taking a stand to clarify the rules of compliance and further to ban these unfair rent evictions entirely.
Thank you. And Olivia, are you going to join us? Come on up. Followed by Max Golding, please. Can you just pull that right down to you? There you go.
Hi, my name's Olivia Asher. I'm 9 years old. I've lived in Santa Barbara for my whole life, and I ask the court to consider helping and stopping the landlords from kicking us out of our house. It doesn't need updates to be safe. We need your help. Thank you.
Thank you. Well done. Max Golding will be followed by Teresa Patino.
Hi, Mayor and Council. That's a tough one to follow up. I'm going to actually, because you've heard from people that are facing actual rent evictions. I haven't been rent evicted yet, but the landlord in my building he's quite old, and when he dies, a new owner will probably take over, and I'll probably get rent evicted. But I'll just speak to some policy pieces, because one thing you could point to right now is your just cause ordinance, which is like decent in some ways, but there's one key word, which is intent, which is kind of the legal loophole issue for Santa Barbara City, where as long as the landlord intends to make fixes based on safety, habitability issues, and intends to get the permits to do so, then the no-fault eviction is legal. So in court, you could ask legal aid attorneys that actually defend this in court. What the argument is over is whether or not the intent was there, right? So the landlord's lawyer goes like, well, look, here's all these, there's a bunch of evidence showing that there's the intent to do the thing. But it doesn't matter if they actually do the thing or not. It doesn't matter if there is or isn't, if there are or are not safety or habitability concerns, and whether or not there are permits. So that alone would be like a really strong policy change. It would be just removing the intent language, so they actually have to putting the burden on the landlord, so that the rent eviction, if they have to rent evict for some reason, that it has to be tied to safety and habitability issues. And that they have to get permits, and that when they give the notice to the tenant, that the safety and habitability concerns that are cited by the Code and Safety Department are actually, the report is actually there and the permits are there. So that alone would actually be really helpful. If you're afraid, since the Just Cause ordinance is currently under litigation, we could just pass a new ordinance, right? So now you don't have to hide behind the litigation. Just pass an emergency ordinance, because it is an emergency. There's people here that are either homeless already or they're going to be homeless soon. My dad died while homeless. He was homeless most of my life, so homelessness is a thing I care about as well. I think there should be consequences on landlords as well for doing this when there aren't actually issues going on. I think a $10,000 fine that goes into the Housing Trust Fund would be really great. And also a right to guarantee for when they have to remove tenants to fix things up for legitimate reasons, guarantee that they can return with the same lease terms and the same rental rate.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Teresa Patino?
Good afternoon, Mayor Rose and council members. I am a mom and pop landlord in the city of Santa Barbara, and I'd like to make some comments regarding this renovation protest. How can you criminally prosecute a housing provider, Pini, and then adopt a policy that is in complete contradiction to your prosecution? The housing element provides a breakdown of the age of housing units within the city. Unless a certain number of units are renovated each year, the housing stock will age out from lack of maintenance and upgrades. There are some maintenance issues like cast iron plumbing and knob and tube wiring that must be upgraded to meet health and safety standards. This cannot be done with tenants in the unit. There are other potential hazards like asbestos and lead that absolutely must be addressed as a unit ages. This type of abatement should not be done with tenants occupying the unit. The city can track major renovations through building permits as well. So please provide a list of properties that have been renovated and the corresponding list of tenants that were displaced. Be careful to what your next steps are, as then you must change your municipal codes to reflect that health and safety standards no longer apply, or you will create a legal nightmare for the city, residents, and housing providers. And finally, please remember that many affordable housing projects are built in locations where housing once existed. You will put an end to redevelopment of affordable housing where housing already exists. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, are there hands online?
Yes, we have one hand raised. Dan Viano. You are unmuted and can go ahead.
Yes. Hello, city leaders. My heart is broken today listening to the many public speakers about housing, and that wasn't what I was going to speak about. But it does break my heart, and I did want to quickly mention that the residents at Flamingo Mobile Home Park actually had a Zoom meeting with your city attorney's office, and nothing can be done, just like other tenants speak. The city attorney did agree that the owners of Flamingo Mobile Home Park are not following the new ordinance that you guys put into effect, such as a simple fact of a sign. They have not reinstated the sign that says Senior Mobile Home Park. And it's such a simple thing, but the city attorney's office doesn't get to that kind of enforcement. Now, to get up to it, if I have time, I want to speak about a much happier subject, which is what my intent was today. Mother Nature has given us an abundance of rainfall. And on the other hand, she has also given us extremely cold weather and extremely high gas prices to heat our homes. So as you are the leaders of our water company, perhaps you can give us a few free months of water bills. That is something you can do to help us with the high cost of other utilities. And that's about all I have to say to you all today, and thank you.
Thank
Goodbye.
you. Mr. Clerk, are there more speakers online?
There are no more speakers online, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, with that, we'll close public comment. I'd like to thank everybody for their conduct during this hearing, by the way. That was very, very civilized. We appreciate that up here. Let's go to the consent calendar. You have some items to read.
I do. Item 3, construction and operating agreement and reciprocal easements for Chase Palm Park and the future Waterfront Hotel, ordinance adoption agreement. Recommendation that council adopt by reading of title only an ordinance of the council of the city of Santa Barbara authorizing the city administrator to execute the declaration of construction and operating covenants and reciprocal easements by and between American Tradition LLC, RGC Santa Barbara Hotel LLC, and the city of Santa Barbara, a copy of which is on file with the Parks and Recreation Department. Item 4, acceptance of California State Library Infrastructure Grant Resolution. Recommendation that council accept a grant in the amount of $1,490,826 from the California State Library to provide support for library infrastructure improvements. And B, adopt by reading of title only a resolution of the Council of the City of Santa Barbara amending resolution number 22-059, adopting the budget for fiscal year 2023 to approve an increase in revenue and expenditure appropriations in the library's miscellaneous grants funds in the amount of $1,490,826 from the California State Library. Item 5, contract for design of the Santa Barbara Municipal Airport taxiways M, J, and G pavement rehabilitation project resolution agreement. Recommendation that Council A, authorize the Public Works Director to execute a city professional services contract with Mead and Hunt, Inc. in the amount of $262,780 for design services of the Santa Barbara Municipal Airport taxiways M, J, and G pavements rehabilitation project, and authorize the Public Works Director to approve expenditures of up to $26,278 for extra services of Mead and Hunt Incorporated that may result from the necessary changes in the scope of work. And B, adopt by reading of title only a resolution of the Council of the City of Santa Barbara amending resolution number 22-059, adopting the budget for fiscal year 2023 to appropriate funds for the Santa Barbara Municipal Airport taxiways M, J, and G pavement rehabilitation project. Agenda item 6, designation of authorized agents to execute disaster assistance applications on behalf of the City of Santa Barbara for the purpose of obtaining federal and state financial assistance resolution. Recommendation that council adopt by reading of title only a resolution of the Council of the City of Santa Barbara designating the finance director, assistant finance director, and accounting manager as the City of Santa Barbara's agent for California Governor's Office of Emergency Management Disaster Assistance for 3 years, expiring January 31st, 2026. And agenda item 7, bequest from the Peter and Crystal Hahn Trusts to the City of Santa Barbara for exclusive use and benefit of the Library and Parks and Recreation Departments resolution. Recommendation that council adopt by reading of title only a resolution of the Council of the City of Santa Barbara accepting a bequest from the Peter and Crystal Hahn Trust in the total amount of $15,640 to the City of Santa Barbara for exclusive use and benefit of the Library and the Parks and Recreation Department. Those are all the items to read.
Thank you very much. We've already removed item 11. Does anybody from council need to pull any item off for discussion? Are there any public comments online regarding the consent calendar?
There are no hands raised.
Okay, with that, I'll entertain a motion for the consent calendar.
Second.
Okay. Moved by Freeman, second by Sneddon or Gutierrez. Thank you. Very good.
All right, so this is a motion by Councilmember Friedman, seconded by Councilmember Alejandro Gutierrez to move the consent calendar forward without item 11. Oh, excuse me, Mayor Pro Tem Gutierrez.
Yeah, her too.
And as soon as all votes are entered, Councilmember Oscar Gutierrez, how do you vote?
Aye.
Very good. Passed unanimously. Thank you. And that concludes the consent calendar. Can I get a report from the Finance Committee, please, Mr. Friedman?
Thank you. Today, the Finance Committee met and reviewed the second quarter financials as well as staff recommended adjustments, and we had passed both of those, and that was item 9 on the consent calendar, so if you'd like more information as well for the public, you can read item 9 today as well.
All right, very good. Thank you very much. We'll move on to our administrative calendar. Mr. Clerk, you have an item to read.
Yes, this is item 13, designation of State Street Parkway between Mission Street and Constance Avenue as a landmark resolution. Recommendation that council adopt by reading of title only a resolution of the Council of the City of Santa Barbara designating the State Street Parkway between Mission Street and Constance Avenue as a city landmark.
All right, very good. Mr. Hernandez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. As you all know, I am Nicole Hernandez, the architectural historian, here to present the qualifications for the designation of the State Street Parkway as a landmark. Purpose of the hearing today is to review the Historic Landmarks Commission's recommendation on the historic and architectural significance of the State Street Parkway, and for council to consider adopting a resolution designating the parkway as a landmark. Landmarks are the most important historic resources in the city, representing the unique history and architecture, in this case, cultural landscape, designated only by city council vote. And they are protected from demolition and inappropriate exterior alterations, and there are currently 136 landmarks in the city. The legal authority for designations as landmarks starts with the charter that grants Historic Landmarks Commission the power and duty to recommend to City Council that structures be designated landmarks, and in the municipal code that grants council the authority to designate city landmarks based on the HLC recommendations. And in our historic resources element of the general plan, it calls out for protection of cultural landscapes like the State Street Parkway, and identifying and designating the historic cultural landscapes and protecting them and those that contribute to the historic resources of our city. So the process for designation is, first we receive a nomination from any member of the HLC, owner, or member of the public. In this case, we received a nomination from the Upper East Association on June 27th, 2022. And then the Historic Landmarks Commission reviews the report and the designation criteria and provides the recommendation. The HLC unanimously recommended the designation on December 7th, 2022. And then it comes to City Council for the final designation. If supportive, you will adopt a resolution designating the parkway today. If not, the parkway will have to remain on the Historic Resources Inventory based on sufficient evidence that it's historic for the purposes of the California Environmental Quality Act. The criteria to designate a historic resource is in our municipal code and listed here. The property must retain historic integrity and meet at least one of these criteria listed. These are mimic the National Register's criteria, so it really focuses on evidence of historic importance rather than opinion, and thus the decisions are not arbitrary or subjective. So this is where the location of the State Street Parkway is. It's from Mission here down to the south, running all the way up to East Constance Avenue, right down the center of the street. And just a little background on the development of this area of State Street. You can see in this 1898 map shows that this area was all agricultural, and the State Street was just a little street running through the orchards. Yet by 1907, in this map, the Sanborn map, you can see this blocks had already been subdivided, getting ready for residential subdivisions. And the streets you can see were named differently than we have them now. First, second, third, fourth, fifth, and then Constance was named both Constance Avenue and East 6th. So the first houses did not appear on State Street until, in this portion of State Street until 1914. And the two houses you see here are just on the other side of the parkway. This was built in 1915 and this in 1916. They're both designated historic resources and give a beautiful context to the whole State Street Parkway. Here you can see in 1917, this is the drawing that the engineers in Public Works designed for State Street Parkway. The real estate developers were demanding this area be paved, as it had not been paved till 1917, and the community was really demanding the parkways to soften and beautify the street. And here you can see they had 2 per block, just as there are now, and these are the current drawings that were drawn by architect Fred Sweeney, who is here today, who's also part of the Upper East Association. They're drawn to scale and show the current landscaping and trees so that we have a base of what was there at the day of designation. This was requested by the Historic Landmarks Commission. And this is just a historic photograph that the Upper East included in their nomination that shows an early photograph of the parkway, which is way up here in the corner, but this part here is the old Flying A movie studios on Mission, and then this is State Street here coming along, and you'll see the Parkway. So the State Street Parkway does meet criterion 3 as it embodies distinctive characteristics of the period in the early 20th century when Santa Barbara was purposely beautifying the urban environment. The installation of the Parkway represents a national movement as a whole called the City Beautiful movement, when cities were beautifying towns with parkways. I mean, the philosophy was very simple, that beauty in the urban landscape was essential to public welfare. And Santa Barbara was really fortunate to have one of the most noted authorities in the City Beautiful movement, Charles Mulford Robinson, complete a report with suggestions to beautify the city. He completed this in 1909. He recommended that Santa Barbara install the Parkway to give the street more of a stately effect for its main vertebrae. And it was not until 1917 that it was installed, and there are some articles attached to the significance report from these years outlining the debate in Santa Barbara about installing the parkways. And thanks to the research of historian Mary Louise Days, who researched all the minutes of the Parks Commission in the early 1920s, she found that in 1924, the Parks Commission, who included master landscape architect Ralph Talent Stevens and master horticulturist Edward Owen Orpett, recommended the installation of these pindo palms. They have that really beautiful bluish green leaf, and they have this really nice stature that's high enough but not too low, and it is native to Paraguay. And they did 2 palms per section of the parkway, and almost all of them still exist today. And it is significant that community members with such talent and vision were on the Parks Commission and helping to shape the beauty of the city through the parkway. At the time, they recommended ivy as the ground cover, and by the end of World War II, the plantings were hardier geraniums, illustrating the ground covers have changed over time, but they've always been some sort of low planting material. The Parkway also qualifies under Criterion 5, as the State Street Parkway has been a cultural landscape for over 100 years, representing an established and familiar feature of the neighborhood that continues to provide beauty and green space to the city. There was some discussion over the boundary at the Historic Landmarks Commission, and I'm going to represent the 3 choices today. The HLC recommended the boundary run from the exterior curb along the tree lawn to the exterior curb along the tree lawn to include the pavement. And then there was even discussion of expanding it past the tree lawn onto the other side of the sidewalks to give more of a whole landscape view. However, it really did extend too far beyond the scope of the original nomination, which was just the parkway down the middle and all the history and significance of doing such a thing down the middle. And staff does recommend just the choice A of the planting parkway, and this is to help better maintain paving and necessary street operations, as staff thinks this more limited boundary will help not set up an expectation to receive HLC approval for normal street maintenance. This will still include the curbs, the trees, and the landscapes and the planters down the center. The HLC did recommend the ground cover in the parkway should be maintained as a landscape and in healthy condition, never replaced with dirt or mulch or gravel. They just wanted a low plant material. This gives flexibility for future plantings to continue to be sustainable material that will not require much, if any, irrigation. And the HLC was explicit that the palms be replaced with the same species of pindo palm should they need replacement in the future. In discussions with Nathan Slack, the city's urban forest superintendent, he confirmed that pindo palms warrant this preservation and replacement with the same species given the thoughtful planning of the palms in the parkway. And he noted that if council does designate the State Street Parkway, they will alter the master street tree plan to specify pindo palms in sets of 2 throughout the parkway. And he also affirmed that the 2 current missing palms will be replaced. And there's no plans to change the existing landscaping, which includes agaves and rosemary and other low-growing plants. As the contractors of Parks and Rec already maintain these plants regularly, and the existing plants are currently performing well, and irrigation is not being utilized. And a landmark designation does not prevent future alterations within the proposed designation boundary. The Historic Landmarks Commission by the Municipal Code must make a finding that the alterations are consistent with the Secretary of Interior standards, and any future projects would be evaluated to these standards by a historian. And if the project meets the Secretary of Interior standards, the project receives a California Environmental Quality Act categorical exemption and meets the National Environmental Protection Act requirements. And because of the evidence on record that it is historically significant, this analysis will be required whether or not it's designated. There are two capital improvement programs identified for this parkway. One in fiscal year 2024 as part of Vision Zero, the removal of 30 feet of the parkway just north of Mission Street to create a southbound left turn lane. And at an unknown date, a traffic signal or compact roundabout at Constance Avenue intersection will be required as more housing is added to outer state. The amount of traffic between outer state and downtown will increase, and the existing always stop will not be able to serve the traffic demand. And Derek Bailey is here as well to answer any questions if you have those about that. And there is no budget or financial impact to the designation, as the tree replacement and other tree plantings, watering, and maintenance will continue to occur as part of Parks Department normal landscape maintenance practices and budgeting. And so finally, the recommendation today is for the council to review the HLC's recommendation and support this and supporting significance criteria, adopt a resolution designating State Street Parkway from Mission to Constance Avenue as a historic landmark, and identify the preferred boundary. And that concludes my presentation.
All right, very good. Are there questions from council? Mr. Jordan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Hey, Mr. Hernandez. Just one question, and it's on the, I just want to make sure I understand, in the staff report, it's the bottom of the second to last page and the top of the last page on dealing with, I'll just affectionately call it the burden of putting in that left-hand turn lane. Whether we take this action today or not, the burden would be the same procedurally for the left-hand turn lane, correct?
Yes, that's correct. The California Environmental Quality requires it, whether something's eligible to be designated or designated. So they kind of.
We're referring to the first part, the evaluation of a historian and HLC buying off on findings. That would
yes.
Whether or not we make this designation today.
Correct.
Thank you.
Ms. Nedden.
Thank you, Mayor Rouse, and thank you for presentation. I was hoping to have maybe feedback from HLC. I see Mr. Jordan here, and I don't know if this is the time to ask questions from the HLC perspective, or maybe you could.
Yes, Mr. Jordan came so he could provide that perspective. Yes, please.
So the question I have is specifically about the HLC recommendation on the width. So sort of the reasons for including the pavement in the recommendation, or what are the considerations for that or the constraints?
Good afternoon, Mayor and council members. The HLC had several long discussions about this project. The issue of width came up because the typical HLC designation procedure would designate from lot line to lot line. And in this case, we were mindful of adding too much onto the burden of parks and recs or streets. So we talked about going curb to curb. The issue with curb to curb is that it is a coherent urban design unit, the entire street. So that was the decision on going curb to curb.
And are the curbs themselves historic?
I don't believe so. They're concrete.
They're concrete.
Concrete curbs. Yeah.
Thank you. And then if from city staff, if you could comment on the recommendation not to recommend HLC's recommendation to go curb to curb.
I think, yes, I can comment on that. Because it's just curb to curb, it's only expanding the to the streets, which causes a lot of burden on the street maintenance, and we would have to go to HLC for every maintenance as per the charter. So we would still have a protected landscape all through the center, and that would be protected. It would just give more freedom to be able to maintain the pavement on either side. Since it's a public works effort, it's a lot of maintenance that goes inside of that.
Okay, so for slurry seal or repaving, and it would go to HLC for comment or approval, or what would be the process?
Do you want to? If you designated the pavement itself, it'd be like when we go in EPV and we look at bike parking and pavement choices and all sorts of different elements. It gets bigger and bigger, and either way, whether we just designate the parkway or the larger point, the parkway is going to be protected. And I think we reached that goal with the smaller designation.
Okay. And then how does that impact the eventual southbound turn lane? And I appreciate it. I've been out there with you for sort of to look at the site and understand it. So if this is designated or not designated, how does that impact that particular turn lane?
So I believe Public Works has a consultant historian doing a report on it right now, evaluating if it will meet those Secretary of Interior standards. When we have been out there, I think we can find a solution to get that turn lane with a minimal amount of change. There'll probably be a shorter section, but it will still be historic the rest of the way, and it might be a little bit of an alteration for the public good and safety.
And that would go to HLC for approval of how that portion is changed. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. With that, if there's no more questions from council, and we'll go to public comment. Start out with, thank you for switching that, Nico. Eric Couch. We got 3 minutes. We have a fair amount of speakers, so you don't have to use all three, but go right ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, council members. My name is Eric Couch, and I live at the corner of State Street and Los Olivos, right where the trolleys come up and make that right-hand turn to go up to the Mission. I have the good fortune to have a house that was built in 1925, as well as my neighbor, Rick Barron, and we love taking care of our houses partly because of what they represent to the community. I want to thank Nicole Hernandez and also Fred Sweeney for the great historical work. It was really tremendous to read just how deep and long the history was around creating this feature. And then explain that what motivated me to come to you today and get involved in this issue was really in front of our house, one of the Pindo palms came down years ago, and it was just taken out and removed, and it's been blank for 5 years perhaps. And we were concerned that it was never going to be replaced. We thought the city would replace it, so we called the Parks Department and had the tree people come out, and they said, well, there's no real clear plan to replace them. We may do something entirely different. We may go to a completely different plant. And I thought to myself, this is kind of a signature feature. When people drive up State Street, when I was, I'm 55, when I was 9, I used to drive, my family would come to Santa Barbara. And I actually remember driving in the back seat on that one stretch of land between Constance and Mission. I remember hanging my head out of the window and going, wow, this is really cool. And when I think about what we're trying to do in creating historic landmarks, that's what I remember. It was historic. So I just want to thank you and encourage you to please vote in support of this. We really want to see this survive and last as something notable in the region. Thank you.
All right, thank you. It'll be Rick Barron followed by Dennis Dordan, but we will accept speaker slips for another 10 minutes, both online and in person. At 3:10, we'll cut them off.
My name is Rick Barron. I've lived in the same house on State Street for over 70 years. It's one of those old Spanish built right after that large earthquake. It's right square in the middle of the area being proposed designated, as the historic landmark. I can't be out in my yard, front yard, without people passing by going, what is that tree in the middle? It has such beautiful leaves on it. We've never seen that before, and they're speaking of the Pindo palms. And I have the same concern Mr. Couch does, that those get replaced because they take so long to grow, that we ought to get started on that as quickly as possible. And I fully endorse what the Landmarks Commission did. They worked with our community on the issue, and I appreciate that they brought it before the board here. They did a great job, and we appreciate the work, and we hope it passes. Thank you.
Thank you. Dennis Jordan, followed by Catherine Richardson.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman, again, I'm Dennis Dorden, a resident of Santa Barbara and a member of the Historic Landmarks Commission. I'm here today to urge you to approve the designation of the State Street Parkway as a landmark. When this proposal came before the HLC, we found the research and rationale presented to us very persuasive. The State Street Parkway definitely meets several different criteria and clearly merits designation. In addition, we were impressed with the amount of neighborhood and community support for the designation. In addition to individuals who you've heard from, 3 different community organizations, the Upper East Association, the Citizens Planning Association, and the Santa Barbara Conservancy, all supported designation. In terms of architecture and urbanism, Santa Barbara has a history out of all proportion to its size. In the early 20th century, this city possessed a civic leadership that cared about the architectural, urban, and environmental quality of this place. As an example of the City Beautiful approach to planning, the State Street Parkway serves as a reminder that in the past, the people of Santa Barbara always cared about the quality of urban life here, and we should too. I urge you to approve the recommendation before you, and I'll be glad to answer any additional questions you have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Catherine Richardson, followed by Beth Perry. Okay. Oh, got it right. Beth Perry, and she'll be followed by Pat Saley.
Mayor Rouse and City Council, hello. My name is Beth Perry, and I live on Constance Avenue, and I wanted to strongly urge you to adopt a resolution to designate State Street Parkway as a historical landmark. Thank you.
Thank you. Pat Saley, followed by Mary Louise Days.
Good afternoon. Haven't been here in a while. My name is Pat Saley. I'm on the Upper East Side Association Board. So is Beth Perry, who just spoke. I'm also a member of its History Committee. I helped to prepare the application before you. Wanted to acknowledge Fred Sweeney, who you'll hear from in a moment, and he's done a lot of work here. Mary Louise Days, Lisa Burns, Nicole, of course, and a host of others. I wanted to tell you about our process because I feel it really worked well to get us here. We first reached out to neighbors on both sides of State Street, only half of whom are in our association area. The line goes down State Street, but we got emails and we did snail mail, we did everything. We reached out to them to see the interest. We did a survey and we had very positive results. We regularly emailed our membership, including the folks on the other side of State Street. We worked closely with planning staff. We also met at State and Mission with transportation staff to talk about the left turn pocket. All of us live in that vicinity and we appreciate the need for that, and it appears it can be done if approached carefully. As we did our research, I, for one, realized how special and unique the Parkway is. First of all, it's the only one of its kind in town, but it's over 100 years old, and it's pretty much in pristine condition since it was first constructed. So I would encourage you to support HLC's recommendation, make the findings, and designate the Parkway a landmark. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mary Louise Days, to be followed by Fred Sweeney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I reside in East San Roque, and I grew up on the Lower East Side. So I've been traveling through this parkway all of my life. And I've heard about it all of my life because my father was a horticulturalist and nurseryman, and he remembered when the trees were planted. He knew who was associated with it. And then when I worked in planning, we were always striving to protect single-family zones which surround this area. The parkway is 100 years old, and it should continue to be protected and admired. Everyone who's not associated with government that I have informed of this proposal is strongly in favor of it. I was happy to do the Park Commission research with the help of Rose Navarez and to recommend Mr. Stevens and Mr. Orpit for part of the criteria. They both served as city park superintendents, and I think at this particular time, Mr. Orpit was the superintendent, so he was not a commissioner. But I have a wonderful 1945-46 booklet put out by Superintendent Finley McKenzie, and he described at war's end the condition of all the city parks. And on page 25, he says, he has a title, Upper State Street Center Parkways. So the name goes way back. And he said that they had changed from annual flowers to hardier geraniums because this reduced maintenance costs. It proves to be just as satisfactory, and it has an irrigation system and a part-time caretaker, so the planting was kept in fine condition. So thank you, and please adopt this resolution.
Thank you. Fred Sweeney, followed by Bruce Belfiore.
Mr. Mayor and Council, thank you very much. It's been a journey, but we're here, and we really appreciate your ability to consider this designation. I had a whole thing written out on history, et cetera, but Mr. Dordan covered it all, so I'll skip all of that. Actually, I would rather be here with a magic wand to solve our housing problem. That's what I'd rather be doing, but we can't. But in this case, we're trying to preserve a piece of our significant history. It's part of our city. It's about who we are as citizens. It's interesting in all the background. It took 4 years for the then city council prior to 1918, took 4 years for them to figure out how much to pave on that part of State Street. There was even a recall exercise going on because of that. So nothing changes even over 100 years. I hope 100 years from now we'll look back and our great-great-grandchildren will say this was a great thing to do. With regards to the left-hand turn lane, the issue of paving, I'm not terribly concerned. And as you know, I've been here and will be here before you concerning another historical corridor that will go unnamed, which is controversial. But we realize that even if we deal with historic, significant areas of our city, we still have to be careful about safety and the day-to-day operation of our streets. So there has to be a way to come to that, and Mr. Bailey has been very helpful. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Oh, a question for Mr. Sweeney from Ms. Ned.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Sweeney, for bringing this forward. It's nice to see you. Can you comment a little bit further on the curb to curb versus just the median?
Yeah, as I mentioned, back in 1918, there was this discussion about how much to pave. And if you look at those early photographs, that the one of the Flying A Studios was the only one we were able to find that's up in the air. I don't know how they took that picture. And you'll see if you look carefully, the paving didn't go all the way to the islands. It didn't cover the parking spaces. They left that to be dirt. So later on, they came and paved all the way curb to curb. The curbs actually have Fairfield and Childs as the contractors stamp into them. And so the ability for Public Works to go in and do what they need to do to the streets, to need the paving, to do the ceiling, et cetera, there's no sense of tying their hands to do that. We're not overly concerned. We're concerned about the Parkway will now be there forever. I think the roundabout at Constance, there's plenty of room. You know, that's where the street opens up very wide. So I think there's room. There'll be some taking of land probably. But I think that's all doable if we look at it carefully.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Sweeney. Bruce Belfiore is the final speaker.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council. I'm Bruce Belfiore. I live on Constance Avenue, and I want to thank you very much for considering this proposal and thank Fred Sweeney for all of his great work on this. The Parkway is really a great resource for the city, beautiful piece of property. And my late in-laws remember when State Street ended at Constance Avenue, and they used to cruise down and then go around, and when they were in high school, you know, that's what you'd do. And I think it's wonderful that we're asking to preserve in this way a section of State Street that really basically is an oasis in between two very developed and very commercial parts of State Street. So I would like to talk and just say I'm in favor of this and recommend it to your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there speakers online, Mr. Clerk?
There are no speakers online.
Okay, very good. And with that, we'll go back to council. Mr. Jordan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So you put a handful of people in here today, you know, that I'm very familiar with that make me uneasy because this isn't my strong suit. So, but I want to say thanks to Pat and Mary Louise and Fred and the rest of your team and the Upper East Association because I'm fully in support of this. My day-to-day perspective, of course, for all of my life has been going up and down Mesa Lane and the Ukes, which I would love to do that, except I hate that there's Ukes there eventually. So, but I can certainly, I get the same feeling going home every day, having visited my grandparents there constantly, as I do when I either come up State Street or make that turn off Mission and go up that section there. I'm encouraged, Fred, by your optimism, and I want to take that optimism and I'll support option A that staff is supporting. I'm hesitant to give up exactly what you talked about, and that is making sure we have the future flexibility to enable every type of person using that road, whether it's people on the sidewalk, people on a bike lane, or people on their cars. We've been in an argument about that before. Don't want to go back that direction. I want to keep those options open. But otherwise, I'm wholeheartedly in support of this proposal. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Ms. Snedden.
Thank you, Mayor Rouse, and I'm also in support. I'm a little bit hesitant about the width just because it's hard to go recommend against a unanimous HLC recommendation. So I'm a little bit on the fence with that, but I do believe we need to maintain the roads also for their current uses, and hindrance to that and for access and mobility seems like a important issue too. So just really thank you, the Upper East Association, familiar faces, and neighbors, as you described, neighbors in this area have been celebrating this portion of the street since it first began and also arguing over it. So designating the landmark sets it that our priority is preserving it in its current state. So Fred Sweeney, Pat Saley, and especially Mary Louise Days for your personal history always and your ability to dive deep into the records. And Nicole Hernandez, it's always a pleasure when you present to us our own history of the city and highlight those different portions. I like about this median that it is, as you said, not just the Upper East Side of the street, it's that whole area, and it's enjoyed by many. I find the median clearly merits the criteria. I would consider supporting HLC's recommendation for the full width, but am content with the staff recommendation for the median, and also maintaining the replacement with the Pindo palms and having the ground cover remain as landscape. So I'm in support. I'm happy to move the recommendation when it comes time.
Thank you. Mr. Friedman.
Thank you. I just want to also express my appreciation to all involved for bringing this forward. These, when we get historic landmark before us, the council, I think they're the most fun items because there's a lot of research that goes into them, and we have the time because it's on an agenda to really read about our city and the history, and looking at pictures is great, and also the narrative and seeing old newspaper clippings of what the council used to go through among it. So I just appreciate the history of it, and I'll be supporting the staff recommendation. I know it is grappled with on whether or not to include the road, but it seems that the intent is to protect the parkway, and it seems that can be achieved, and it is important that we do this because I agree 100% with the statement that from the public that it's an oasis between the two parts of State Street. And years ago, over 20 years ago, when I lived over on Pueblo and De La Vina, and I worked at the county, I'd bike up, and I'd always look at the beginning of the parkway because I knew that was going to be the most difficult part to ride my bike up because, going uphill. But at the same time, it slows the traffic down, and it was a nicer part of the ride. So, and then I'd get up there. So I had a few years where I'd see that every day from my bike, and you kind of look at what's there. And so I'm supportive of moving this forward. And again, the Pindo palms and the recommendation that, to keep it as cover, not as mulch or gravel and all that. So the motion's been made, I guess, by Councilmember Sneddon, so I'm happy to second it.
Okay, Sneddon and Friedman, very good. And I'd just like to add that I really love the fact that there are folks in the face of the tidal wave of land use issues that come down from Sacramento every 5 or 6 minutes. I really appreciate those of you who carry the torch and keep the flame alive for historic and aesthetic preservation in some parts of our town. It's pretty refreshing, so thank you. And without any further comments, Mr. Gutierrez is yours hand? Okay, very good. With that, we have a motion on the floor and a second. Everybody understand the motion? And we'll take the vote, please.
So this is a motion.
Mr. Mayor, who made the second?
Oh, it was Mr. Friedman.
Oh, okay, great, thank you.
Yeah, so this is a motion by Councilmember Sneddon, seconded by Councilmember Friedman to move forward with the staff recommendation for item 13.
And it also includes the replacement with the Pindo palms and that the ground cover remain as landscape.
Yes.
Oh, there it goes.
And Councilmember Oscar Gutierrez, how do you vote?
Aye.
And we'll go to the scoreboard. And it's unanimous. Thank you very much, and thank you all for your efforts. And we will move on. I love this electronic stuff. It's just so buzzy. I feel like I'm in Vegas. And as we move on, can we go to the next item? Mr. Clerk, you have the item to read, please.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, this is item 14, public hearing for the 2023 Downtown and Old Town Business Improvement Districts Assessment Resolution. Recommendation that council conduct a public hearing and consider appropriate conduct a public hearing and consider appropriate protests to the renewal of the Downtown and Old Town Business Improvement Districts Assessment for 2023 as required under the California Parking and Business Improvement Area Law of 1989, and B, adopt by reading of title only a resolution of the Council of the City of Santa Barbara confirming the fiscal year 2023 Downtown and Old Town Business Improvement District Annual Assessment Report and renewing the Downtown Business Improvement District and Old Town Business Improvement District assessments for 2023.
Mr. Bodette.
Mr. Mayor, members of City Council, good afternoon. So, Brandon Bodette, Senior Assistant to the City Administrator. The item before you today is the public hearing for the Downtown and Old Town Business Improvement District. I'm just going to give a quick background today and then provide a walkthrough of the public hearing, and then I'm going to turn it over to Downtown Santa Barbara to deliver their annual report. So the districts are formed pursuant to the Parking and Business Improvement Law of 1989. Downtown Santa Barbara serves as the third-party service provider for the two districts. The two districts have different calculation assessments. Downtown district has two specific categories. It ranges from Mitchell-Trina down to Ortega, and east and west from Anacapa to Chapala. Old Town has 4 different categories. It's a smaller district that runs north and south from Ortega down to Gutierrez and runs from Chapala to Anacapa. You can tell by the assessments that they haven't changed for some time in terms of the categories. In the terms of the public hearing process, Council adopted a resolution of intention for assessment on January 31st, where the annual assessment report was approved. Letters were sent to all the businesses within the two districts, and then allowed for protest votes to be sent into the city clerk's office. That brings us today to conduct the actual public hearing portion, and for council to confirm that there's a lack of majority. As of 2 o'clock today, there was 6.3% protest vote. And then that allows for adoption of resolution to renew. So action today would be to confirm both the Downtown Old Town Business Improvement District Annual Assessment Report and to review the district assessments. So I'm going to turn it over to Downtown Santa Barbara, who's going to actually walk through their report.
Good afternoon, Mayor, City Council members. On behalf of the Downtown Organization, staff, Board of Directors, as Executive Director, my name's Robin Elander. I want to start off by saying that it's been an honor for our organization to serve our downtown business community and for our organization to manage the Business Improvement District for now over 50 years. We appreciate your ongoing partnership and trust. Today I'll be sharing some highlights of what our organization does for our community as part of our annual bid renewal report. For those of you who came to our recent annual awards, this will be similar, so bear with me. Downtown was first incorporated in 1967. We have a long history of leading change, organizing community, and building the brand of downtown Santa Barbara. To start, these are our 2023 board members. The next slide, please. We have 33 individuals representing a diverse cross-section of our downtown business community that bring deep knowledge and experience. These are our Downtown Santa Barbara staff team members who work tirelessly to support our downtown community. We currently have 5 full-time staff and 2 part-time staff on our team, and these are their photos and positions. Now I'll share some of the highlights from 2022 and our plans for the year ahead. Our strategic priorities focus on creating a thriving downtown center, a dynamic place to work, live, and visit, and a welcoming space that is safe, clean, and beautiful. I'll be sharing today how our work fits into each of these categories. The past year has been about re-energizing our downtown with diverse programming, marketing, and supportive services for our businesses, and building further capacity of our organization to serve our community into the future. First, I'll share about our programming. Our flagship program, First Thursday, continues to attract thousands of people downtown each month to the regular and new businesses that participate. In 2022, we relaunched the Live Art and Wine Tour after the pandemic for the first time since 2019. This event pairs downtown venues with delectable bites and sips, plus live music and art. For 2023, the tour will be held on Thursday, May 18th. In 2022, we launched a series of themed downtown block parties on State Street to attract new patrons downtown during the week with a focus on families. We kicked off the series in October with Harvest Fest. Then in November, a Friendsgiving event. And in January, we hosted a Fitness Fest and e-bike awareness day in partnership with our health and wellness and bike community. Our partners at SBCAG hosted an e-bike safety course and educated hundreds on e-bike safety. Here are just a few snapshots from our different block parties. As you can see, our kids' craft stations and also our Halloween costume parties were a hit. Join us for our next downtown block party. It will be on March 16th on the 7 and 800 block of State Street. This one says the 23rd, but it rained, so we had to postpone. Another way we activate downtown and support businesses is through our downtown trick or treat and holiday decor contest. This past year, we also invested in new infrastructure, including tables, chairs, lighting, decor, and signage to grow the diversity of our programming. We then built and launched a new downtown concert series called Downtown Live, showcasing our talented local musicians. In this series, we created a relaxing park-like atmosphere to enjoy State Street. We also strategically paired the locations of the concerts to support neighboring businesses, in some cases enabling their best day in sales to date. We also hosted numerous networking mixers as another way to highlight the businesses downtown. Mixers bring in new patrons, give an opportunity for the proprietor to share their business with the public, and for us to share updates about what's happening in the district. We hosted and supported business anniversaries, ribbon cuttings, and welcomed a number of new businesses, including Sunkissed Pantry, Da Michele Pizzeria, Fusion Academy, Creative Boutique, Oh My Soul, Fresco Cafe, Axe Club, Xanadu Skate Shop, amongst many others. Our organization also highlights businesses for just about every holiday, ranging from Black History Month to Valentine's Day to National Pizza Day, International Coffee Day, National Ice Cream Day, etc. These promotions drive business to the diverse array of organizations we have in our district. We do an extra special push around the holiday season. As part of our holiday campaign, our team produced a 10 days of retail video series and hosted 11 holiday activations with the support of our presenting sponsor, Consumer Fire Products. The holiday program included a 5-week candlelight concert series on the steps of the Museum of Art, plus a downtown tree lighting ceremony, a block party, a big brass band concert, and more. We even went so far as creating a snowflake blizzard in our downtown business windows, especially vacant ones for the holidays. This is our colleague Daniel in action. In 2022, we strategically pushed out thousands of social media highlights, e-newsletters, calendar events, and more to support and market our downtown business community. We also hang 40 flags along State Street corridor each year, showcasing the work of our local nonprofit organizations. We enhanced our promotional efforts through our Shop Local campaign with graphics and stories that showcase the unique attributes and people who make downtown special. We additionally introduced a new campaign called Arttober to drive ticket sales to our cultural institutions in partnership with a team at Voice Magazine. We have increased brand awareness and promoted downtown Santa Barbara as a prominent destination through paid and earned media, and we were featured in over 100 news stories, included radio, print, and online publications. Our marketing team's efforts have increased our Instagram following by 8,000 in the past year. We also generated 1.5 million impressions through Instagram Reels alone, just to give you a glimpse of the impact of our marketing. Since initiation of the Downtown Business Spotlight, an interview series in collaboration with The Independent, we highlighted over 250 businesses and generated more than 2 million views and documented documented some great business origin stories and people who make up the heart of our business community. We supported downtown businesses to benefit from the return of the cruise ships by recruiting downtown businesses, flyers, and gathering up their postcards, flyers, and more to distribute to the thousands of arriving guests. In September, we hosted a job fair on State Street in collaboration with the Workforce Development Board, Visit Santa Barbara, the Santa Barbara Library, amongst others, to help businesses get the employees they need. Another job fair is planned for April 18th from 3 to 6 on State Street. We're expecting more than 100 participants. We also help our downtown businesses with educational and financial resources to support their businesses to grow and thrive. Here are some of those key resource partners. Some of these great people and organizations are incredible, and I really am thankful for their collaboration. We promote local events and festivals that occur downtown, and we're excited to support the return of such events last year, such as Fiesta, Summer Solstice, the Film Festival, Veterans Day Marathon, amongst others. We also regularly partner with key social service agencies through our Regional Action Plan on Homelessness. In 2022, Dignity Moves, a new transitional living facility, opened and has since become an effective supportive housing model, which will be repeated throughout the county and state. Very happy that this has occurred in the past year. Our staff and board has also been actively participating in the city's Create State Downtown Master Planning process. We invite any business community members who are listening to this report today to participate in this important community design initiative that will shape the future of downtown. As we look ahead to the rest of 2023 and beyond, we will be continuing and expanding many of the programs I've discussed here. We will also continue to host Downtown Beautification Days to help with special projects in collaboration with the new Friends of State Street volunteer organization. We will also be inviting our diverse cultural and business community to join us in partnering to program the promenade. Keep your ear out for more information on this unique opportunity soon. We will soon be sending out a survey to our business community to learn more about their needs and what they believe is of high priority to them in 2023 and beyond. We have also begun recruiting key stakeholders to form an economic development working group with the goal of strengthening supportive services and an environment that enables more businesses to open, expand, and thrive. We are working to further support our retail community through retail-specific promotions and partnerships. We are exploring the idea of a downtown fashion show as part of this effort. We see continued investment in opportunity downtown. In just these past 3 weeks, the following businesses have opened: Drift Hotel, plus a coffee and cocktail bar called Dawn and Dusk in the base of it, next to Institution Ale. Gala, a gorgeous new restaurant on Anacapa and Ortega Street. A new beautifully designed Marriott has emerged from the remodel of the La Quinta Inn on the 1600 block of State Street. Bungalow 805 is welcoming kids and families in a brand new space on West Figueroa near Savoy. And Augie's, a new tequila bar and restaurant designed by architect Jeff Shelton, recently opened on the corner of Ortega and State. Longoria Wines tasting room just opened last week, maybe about 2-3 weeks ago, at 732 State Street, and I highly recommend it. Elena's Kitchen opened as well, and any day now, Azul Cantina will open on Anapamu. In April, the Community Environmental Council will open a new environmental hub on the 1200 block of State Street, right around Earth Day. This is going to be an incredible new community space to keep your eye out for. The fruits of many years of dedicated effort from our city's leaders, such as yourselves, developers, investors, and dedicated citizens, are coming into focus and close to fruition all at once. Our community has a lot to look forward to. This ends my bid renewal presentation report. I do want to also share at this time that this could be the last time we renew the bid, possibly. As many of you know, the downtown organization, in collaboration with the South Coast Chamber, has been exploring the feasibility of a downtown community benefit improvement district. I am happy to report that we have successfully surpassed the 30% threshold of support needed from downtown property owners to responsibly move to the formation phase. In the upcoming weeks, we'll be working on a formation management plan, which will include the new district boundaries, services, and how we intend to transition our organization to meet the current and future needs of downtown. We will be coming back to you all with that document for your review and comment in the near term. I look forward to working with you all in collaboration with our downtown stakeholders as this process moves forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions from council? Wow. Any public comment? Anyone online, Mr. Clerk?
There are no hands raised, Mr. Mayor.
All right, very good. Oh, Ms. Sneddon.
Can I make a comment? Is it comment time?
What's that?
Can I make a comment?
Yeah, I think we're pretty much clear to that now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we all agree, but you make downtown look so fun, and there are so many activities all the time, and I really like the new graphics. Like every time I see them, I think, I don't know, it makes downtown look lively, and the events that you've been putting on, I just wanted to say something in support of that it's so much programming is going on and fun things that didn't exist before, so thank you.
Very good. Mr. Friedman, did you have anything, or just, no, Ms. Sneddon, Ms. Harmon then?
Thank you. I will be very brief. I just want to echo Councilmember Sneddon's comments and share my appreciation for your work, Ms. Elander, and your whole organization. I know there are so many people working to keep our downtown vibrant, to make it more vibrant, more welcoming, and particularly in this period of transition. It has really stood out to me how critical you all have been in keeping us focused on what's great about State Street and the fun, and making it a place for our community to gather and be enriched. So I really appreciate that. I know there's much work to come in the years ahead, and grateful for your effort on behalf of our whole city. Thank you.
Mr. Friedman.
In the words of Patrick Swayze from the movie Ghost, ditto.
I'll move the staff recommendations, Mr. Mayor.
Who's in charge here? All right, we have a first and a second. And is any comment from Mr. Gutierrez? I haven't seen him online. Okay, very good. We have a motion on the table, so we will have a vote.
Yes, can I hear who seconded the motion? Okay, that is a motion by Councilmember Jordan, seconded by Councilmember Harmon to move the staff recommendation forward for item 14. All right.
I'm sorry. Oh, excuse me.
Yeah. Mr. Gutierrez, if you would.
Oh, I didn't. Okay. I already did it. Can we redo the vote?
I'm glad we can at least do this with dignity anyway. That's, looks like it's unanimous. Thank you very much.
All right, we're going to redo that vote. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. We'll move to council. What's that? I have to ask Oscar? Yeah.
You need to lock your vote in, and then he'll give us his vote. Maybe we should do a voice vote.
Mr. Gutierrez, would you? Not that.
I'm an aye.
Councilmember Oscar Gutierrez, what is your vote?
Aye, yes.
Wow. That was so suspenseful. My God, it's unanimous again. There we go. All right. Now, may we move to council committee assignment reports. Mr. Friedman.
All right, I have a few since we had a couple weeks, so let me list them off here. The Park Foundation, Coastal Cities Leadership Group monthly meeting, the Coastal Commission Local Government Working Group monthly meeting, attended the Alliance for Community Media annual meeting, and I just want to say they were very fortunate to have that here in Santa Barbara. It's their national conference, and the very first one took place in 1981 here in Santa Barbara, and so they were back, and just a great exposure to what local media can do for municipalities and the public. So, and it was a really well-attended event, and glad to be there for the opening night. The UCSB economic forecast, the Drift Hotel ribbon cutting, attended the monthly Central Coast Water Authority meeting, and the allocation for state water table A was increased to 35%, and possibly more, depending on the snowpack, but that'll be determined later in the year. And then the Radius economic forecast, and then finally attended a vigil hosted by the Asian American Pacific Islander Solidarity Network and Moms Demand Action put a vigil on State Street and this Sunday, and it was a vigil for the victims of the shootings in Monterey Park and Half Moon Bay, and I appreciate both of those organizations doing that, and it was a time for the community to come together and just support healing and advocate for all of us to speak up and advocate for more sensible and life-saving policies, both locally and at the national level. So thank you.
Very good. Ms. Sneddon.
Thank you, Mayor Rouse. Let's see, at HLC, they heard preliminary about De La Guerra Plaza. At the State Street Advisory Committee, the main part of the conversation was about curbs and bikes, and always inviting the community to weigh in on those issues. At Water Commission, a really interesting topic about wastewater surveillance. The city of Santa Barbara is one of the first to do it with COVID and being able to see that in the wastewater, but there are far-reaching implications from maybe being able to detect polio before it comes, or methamphetamine use, and that's in discussion. It's just was a presentation. Let's see. At COMB, very exciting meeting. Videos of the Kachuma releases. I'll send you each a video of that too. 60,000 acre feet so far, and there will be tens of thousands more acre feet released. We're at already over 200% of our precipitation for the year, which is good news for now. Radius economic forecast this morning, UCSB economic forecast last week, and then I also attended a Coast Geologic Society meeting on wind energy, offshore wind energy, which was interesting, and it turns out that our channel here is not good for wind energy, so that's something I didn't know and wanted to pass on.
Thank you. And Mr. Gutierrez, do you have any report?
No, I'll take it easy on everyone today.
So on Friday, Ms. Bjork and I attended a city leadership group with the mayors and city managers of Santa Barbara County. Assemblymember Hart was our guest, and we talked about issues that affect cities and how it relates to other superior agencies such as the county and the state and how they relate to the cities. And then last evening, Mayor Pro Tem Gutierrez and I attended an East Side meeting along with Barbara Anderson and Jason Harris to discuss issues and concerns, and with the hopes of hopefully forming an East Side community group that will be meeting on a regular basis. And with that, unless there's anybody else, we stand adjourned. Thank you.